Welcome to the Hard Truth Podcast. This is Jeremy Fouts, and today we are going to be naming this podcast Lifestyle Q&A. And I get tons of questions on text message, those that know me the best, but mainly Instagram and email. And if you have not went to jeremyfouts.com and subscribed to the email list, I would recommend doing that. That way you're always keeping update. And I'm about to add some different things to that as far as daily motivation as well. But I want to read you some of the top questions that I get. Obviously, I'm not going to have time to go through, all the questions that I get, but these are the ones pretty much that I get the same questions asked. So I picked out a few of the questions that fall in that category that most people are asking, and I'm going to do my best to answer those that I hope that brings you some value today during this podcast. So let's go. First question, in your podcast, you mentioned reading is important. I'm a middle-aged man and just going through the motions in life. Make decent money and pretty good family man, but little motivation to do more. Can you recommend a book to motivate me? I could recommend a lot. Probably the most favorite book that I have read, being a middle-aged man myself, a book called Halftime by Bob Buford. And basically, this book is about moving from success to significance. And I'm not going to obviously go through the whole book, but I'll give you a few takeaways. This book is about transitioning from a life focused on personal success to one driven by purpose and significance. And I'm telling you, it's a really good book of making sure you understand you're not too late. And I know it's hard for you to understand if you're 45, 48 like myself. You're thinking, well, man, maybe I've missed my calling in life. Maybe I've not really found what I was really supposed to do to take my life, finances, whatever, to the next level. You are just in halftime. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you get your mind right, you find that purpose again in life, you can do anything you want in life. I'm not going to bore you with a lot of stories, but you got the Colonel Sanders that started, Kentucky Fried Chicken when he's 65, 68. I don't remember how exactly old he was. You got so many different stories that you can research. So being a middle-aged man and feeling like you're just going through the motions, that is normal first and foremost. A few other things in this book that it talks about: success isn't enough. You need to pursue significance. And then halftime is a process, not an event. And then also another takeaway from this book is your core strengths can be used for a greater purpose. All of us have got some core strengths that God maybe didn't put in other people. You've got to figure out a way to use those for a greater purpose. And then the last takeaway, don't fear change, embrace it with purpose. When you get to be that middle-aged man or middle-aged woman, I've never been a woman, obviously, but I can tell you that you almost feel like you're lost. You almost feel like you're just in this rut. You don't really know anything else to do other than just keep doing the same things you're doing. Well, if there's not a happiness in your life, if you're not excited to get up and go to work every day, then I'm going to tell you, don't fear change. Embrace it with purpose. You're going to have to change some things in your life. So I don't want to say the guy's name that sent me this message, but go read that book, message me back, and I'll spend some time with you to help you in anything else. Number 2 question is, I love the idea of falling in love with nutrition and getting healthy. I'm not happy with the way I look. Can you help point me in a right direction? So first and foremost, I'll tell you, you're not alone either. There's so much in society that, they love the idea. They'll go through Instagram, they'll see, a fitness model and say, man, I would love to look like that. They'll go through some healthy recipes and say, man, I can eat like that. And then next thing you know, they're eating cake, they're drinking sodas, they're going by McDonald's. That's part of it. That goes back to just breaking the cycle that you are in right now. So I can give you some pointers. Number 1, I'm big on blood work. Get you some lab work done, figure out where all of your blood work lines up, your cholesterol, your testosterone levels for men and women, your glucose levels, figuring out exactly where you are right now. That is a very good start. Next is figuring out a nutrition plan that you can follow that becomes a lifestyle. I've always been in decent shape, but about 4 years ago, I told my wife, I said, you know what? I've always looked decent on the stage speaking. I've always, looked the part, so to speak, but I've never really focused on my nutrition because my diet was so sporadic. And when you get older, you've got to focus on your nutrition. I recommend that younger, and I'm going to answer a question here in a few minutes about my boys that I really recommend teaching your kids as young as possible. But we started with the keto diet. It was very easy for me to choose keto bread versus just flour white bread. That was a lifestyle that we started about 4 years ago that we could sustain. And so start with a diet plan, a nutrition plan. I don't like the word diet, a nutrition plan that you can follow that becomes part of your lifestyle. If it's a crash hard diet, you're going to do it for about a week and then you're going to be right back to where you are. And then also lift weights. I can tell you right now, if you are a woman and you want to have this really good body, lifting weights is where it's at. Now, there's nothing wrong with cardio, but I can tell you that if all you're doing is cardio and trying to starve yourself, you're not going to have the body you want and you're not going to be healthy like you need to be from a longevity standpoint. I don't want to spend a lot of time on that, but trust me, you are not going to be where you want to be in life. And then next is 10,000 steps a day. I'm big on movement. It might be pickleball for you. It might be I do the Stairmaster for 20 minutes after my workout. I don't know what it is for you, long evening walks, whatever the situation, but getting the movement in and then consistent nutrition is 85% of the puzzle. So I can tell you right now, if you went and worked out for 2 hours and then you still have a crappy diet, you're not going to get to where you want to get to. If you can figure you out a macro plan, your carbs, your proteins, and your fats that you're going to follow, and you track and you measure it on a daily basis, the days that you can't work out, you're not going to go backwards as much. See, I'll just tell you the truth. My workouts is for my sanity. It's what gets my stress out. What helps me, with that drive, I'm basically earning my dopamine levels. So understand your nutrition is 85% of it. Dial that in and then lift weights, being consistent and getting the movement in. Number 3 question is, I have 2 teenage kids. I want to do my part as a father to raise them the best way to prepare them for the future. Do you have some suggestions of what you did right and some examples of some mistakes you made? Well, I'll talk about some of the things that I did right that I'm working on still to this day. I've got a 17-year-old and a 15-year-old. They're not perfect, okay? I'm going to tell you right now, they're not perfect. So I'm not saying that I'm beating on my chest saying I'm the best father ever. I'll just share with you some things that I've done that seems to have worked really well with my boys. And then I'll share with you a few mistakes. And trust me, I've made plenty of mistakes. But first and foremost is teach them respect and manners. I've told my boys since they were small, I said, doors and opportunities will open if you have respect and manners. And I know that may be old school. There might be some of you on that really don't understand that. But yes, sir, no, sir, has got me a long ways in life. Teaching people to treat others like you want to be treated is something big, and teach them early on with teaching them respect and manners. Next is teach them how to work beside you. Find you something. If anytime it would snow very much in Texas, which it hasn't done that a whole lot, but I would take my boys and we'd go shovel people's driveways for free, not even to make money. But I would teach them when we lived on the ranch, working on the fence right beside me, working with cattle right beside me. But you can't just give your boy a job or your girl a job and say, go clean the yard. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. Don't get me wrong. But if you teach them to work beside you, there's something that magical happens. Teaching them to do things the right way. Teaching them that you can sweat right beside them. You're not sending them out the door to do your dirty work. You're teaching them what work can do for their discipline levels. Next is teach them to do things the right way. You know, I'm big on anytime you do something, do it the right way. That is something that will be with them the rest of their life. And then also, my big suggestion is get them involved in a sport they love and push them to be the best. You say, well, I'm not an athletic person. I don't understand. I don't care if it's blowing the trumpet. I don't care if it's in choir. I don't care if it's gymnastics, if it's high dive, if it's football, baseball, or basketball. Find them something when they're younger to get them involved in some type of athletic sport or band or art or something. And the reason for that is because you got to teach them that they want to compete, that they need to want to be the best at something. And that is something that is very good for a teenager to understand is as they're growing up, if they're only spending time on video games instead of working on a project or hitting in the batting cage or working at gymnastics or working at cheer, they've got to find something that drive them to work on to be the best that they can be. Next is give them responsibilities. You know, I can tell you that one of my fears moving back from the ranch was my boys being city boys. And I told them right from the word go, I said, we're not going to be, nothing wrong with city boys, but we're going to have responsibilities. I loved growing them up on a ranch because, I mean, facts show that farm kids have a lot of responsibilities. They become better leaders. So I wanted to let them know, even if we're moving back to the city, you're still going to mow and weed eat the yard. We live in a nice neighborhood here in Prosper, Texas. They would tell me after every time they mowed and weed eated that they was the only kids in our neighborhood doing it. And I said, that's great. You'll thank me later. They take care of their own laundry. When mom and I cook most of the meals, they clean up the kitchen. And it's not chores, guys. I don't look at it as chores. I look at it as we are a family, which is the same part of you being on a baseball team or a football team. We are a team. So here, if I'm going to cook and clean, you're going to do the dishes. If I'm going to, pay for the light bill, you're going to turn off the lights. We're going to have a responsibility and teach you that it starts with you being a part of the team and pulling your weight. Next is excelling in academics. Academics, I know I get it. Some kids, love academics, but for me, I expect excellence in my family. So if they're going to be here, they're going to go to school, they need to pursue being the best they can be. And I'm going to tell you right now, most academics in schools, if you show some effort, regardless of your intelligence level, you can get an A. If you go to that teacher and say, I'm struggling with something, they will work with you. If not, you can find some YouTube or you can find a friend to help them or a tutor or something, but teach them that just because you're not good in the subject don't mean that we get a C or a D. We figure out, work our way through that and become the best that we can be. Leadership qualities. Be the lion, not the sheep. We teach them that we're not doing something just because everybody else does. We're going to be a leader. We're going to teach you to be a leader. We're not going to do drugs because everybody's doing drugs. We're not going to play video games till 2 o'clock in the morning because everybody's playing video games. We're going to check in our phones. We're going to get some sleep. We're going to teach them to be a leader on the field, off the field, in the home, around their friends, and we're not going to do things just because everybody else does things. Next is don't try to save them in every mistake that they make. This is something that I've tried to do. If my son fails a book report, you know what? I'm not making excuses for him. If he was sick 2 days before, you know what? I hate it he was sick 2 days before, but he should have read that book a week before. If he didn't make the starting lineup on the baseball team, or the football team, you know what? He's got to get better. You can't be that parent that always makes excuses for your kid and say, well, it's just, yeah, no, quit trying to save them. Teach them about how to be a leader. This is your job. This is what you need to do to excel, to go to the next level, to be the best at everything that you're trying to do. And don't try to save them if they make a mistake or if they're not as good as the other guy. I've made a lot of mistakes. I don't know exactly how to highlight the biggest mistakes. Probably my biggest mistake would be not teaching them the things that I'm telling you about till later on in life. If you got a 6, 7, 8 year old kid, they can make their own lunch and you can teach them how to do that. Don't wait till they're 12 or 13. If you got a 6 or 7, 8 year old kid, you can show them how to do laundry quicker. If you got a 6, 7, 8 year old kid, you can show them, how to go to the gym and use correct form with some real light weights and start teaching them about the body and movement. But that would probably be my biggest one. And then next is there has been times where stress through running businesses or whatever, I've allowed that stress to carry over into my family life. And that's something that I've learned over the course of them growing up is I might have a bad day in business. I might have a bad day, at whatever, but I can't take that out on them. I've got to let them know that, you know what, dad's business maybe didn't have a good day, but I'm not going to push that over on you. I'm going to take this challenge and this opportunity and overcome this, and teaching them that we deal with struggles as well. We have issues that we work through as well. But my guarantee to you as a father is I'm going to show you how I can work through these things. That way I can help you, coach you how to go through those things as well. Question number 4. You have mentioned the negative effect several times of alcohol, and I find myself in a bad routine nightly of drinking too much. How can I fix this? Change. And I'm going to tell you guys, alcohol is, in my opinion, the most abused drug in the United States. I don't know about the world. I would assume it is in the world as well. So what would help you change? Number one, what should help you change is understand the damage you are doing physically to decrease your estrogen levels. If this is a man that sent me this, your sex drive, you're lethargic in the AM, you have little desire to start earning your dopamine levels. You just want to just drink it instead. That way you feel good. You tend to run from problems, run from issues. I could go on and on about the negative effects from alcohol. And I'm talking about someone that has fell into a habit of just drinking every night, turning the TV on. You're going to regret the time that you have wasted at just sitting on the couch sipping. You're gonna regret the quality of time you could have spent with your wife, your kids, your business, starting a new business, whatever that situation may be. Find yourself in a point where if you got to change, where if it's 6 o'clock, this is when it starts. We're going to eat at 6 o'clock. We're going to go to the gym, or we're going to go play pickleball, or we're going to do something in the community. But you have to change. I will recommend a book, and it's called This Naked Mind by Annie Grace. That is a really good book. Has it on audio as well. That really breaks down the damage you are doing to your brain and your body, and how to overcome this and get through the change that you need in order to be the best that you can be. Last question, number 5. My wife and I have been married 15 years, have 3 kids, and even though we have a good marriage, it does seem like we just go through the motions and more like roommates with very little sex. Now, this is the first question that I've had recently about sex. I had 2 or 3 last month. And number one, I'm not a sex expert, but number 2, Candace and I have a great sex life. And I will tell you that this is something that a lot of people struggle with as well. And these are some of the things that I recommend. Number 1 is put your relationship over your kids. And I know there's a lot of parents listening that they'll probably be like, oh my God, I can't believe you said that. You know what? Your relationship is first and foremost with your wife, with your husband. And I can tell you so many different studies of the parents that their kids are before their relationship. They are divorced by the time their kids are probably sophomore, junior, or senior, and it's done. You have a responsibility, don't get me wrong, of raising great young adults. But part of the process of raising great young adults is teaching them while they're at a younger age how to be a good wife and how to be a good husband and what to look for in a good husband and a good wife. So putting your relationship first with your spouse is my first tip that I'll tell you. Next is you as a man. This is a man that wrote this. You need to become the man you need to be physically, spiritually, and a driven son of a gun, a man on a mission to leave a legacy for your family. That is one of the most attractive things to your wife. And I can promise you, all of us men have went through different phases of our life where we lose that motivation, we lose that inspiration, we lose, and I'm talking about you get driven like crazy. You say, I'm going to take my fitness to a whole new level. I'm going to start reading personal development books. I'm going to start dating my wife on a Friday night. I'm going to start bringing home a flower every once in a while, or 2 flowers, or 6 flowers, or 12 flowers. I don't know. I don't know a lot about flowers. That's why I've got a lady that works at the florist department. But leaving a card, starting that relationship, getting excited about you two building a future together, getting on the same page with your finances, for you understand what it is that you're trying to do. You're not just going to be roommates and have 3 kids that you're trying to take care of. You're trying to build something together. And that's my best recommendation for that. So, guys, I hope that this podcast brought you some value today. The Hard Truth Podcast is, again, I'm not a sex expert, but those advices has worked for me. And I can tell you that we are excited about the continued growth of the Hard Truth Podcast. Share this podcast, other podcasts with your friends and family, and we are going to continue to deliver what we think is the most valuable information for you to be the best you can be by giving you the hard truth. Thank you, guys. Good day, and God bless. Let's go.